The world watched in shock as headlines blared. Chinese Coast Guard rams Filipino vessel. Newsrooms buzzed with urgency, anchors breaking into regular programming to deliver the story. Social media erupted, with images and videos of the incident spreading rapidly, fueling outrage and concern across continents. Near Scarborough Shoal, a Filipino fishing boat, the Maria Clara, was suddenly confronted by a massive Chinese Coast Guard ship. The fishermen, seasoned by years at sea, had never faced a threat so immediate and overwhelming. The vastness of the ocean offered no escape, only the looming shadow of the approaching vessel. The Chinese vessel closed in fast, blaring its horn, a show of force, not a warning. The sound echoed across the waves, a chilling signal that this was no ordinary encounter. The Maria Clara's crew scrambled, shouting orders, but the Coast Guard ship bore down relentlessly. The impact was brutal. The Maria Clara's hull splintered, men thrown across the deck, seawater flooding in. The force of the collision sent supplies and equipment flying, and the cries of the injured mingled with the roar of the sea. Panic set in as the boat began to list dangerously. The Chinese crew watched coldly, offering no help. Their faces betrayed no emotion, no hint of remorse or concern for the battered fishermen struggling to stay afloat. Instead, they circled the crippled boat, blasting the fishermen with water cannons. The powerful jets of water battered the already damaged vessel, drenching the crew and forcing them to cower for cover. The message was unmistakable: leave or suffer. The fishermen, soaked and injured, realized they were being driven out by force, their pleas for mercy ignored. The Maria Clara was left adrift, engine dead, hull breached, crew injured and in shock. The boat, once a symbol of livelihood, now floated helplessly, battered by both man and nature. The Chinese ship lingered, blocking any rescue. Nearby vessels hoping to help were forced to keep their distance, powerless to intervene as the Coast Guard maintained its blockade. The fishermen, some hurt, clung to hope as their boat slowly sank. Their faces, etched with fear and disbelief, told a story of survival against impossible odds. The South China Sea, once peaceful, had become a stage for intimidation. The tranquil waters now bristled with tension as military ships from multiple nations began to converge, each watching the other with suspicion. This single act of aggression ignited a diplomatic firestorm, testing international law and alliances. Governments issued statements, summoning ambassadors and demanding answers. The United Nations called for emergency meetings as the world debated the legality and consequences of the attack. The world's attention was now fixed on this contested shoal. Journalists flocked to the region, broadcasting live updates and interviewing experts on maritime law and regional security. The attack was not just on a boat but on a nation's sovereignty. The battered Filipino flag still fluttering on the Maria Clara became a symbol of resistance and the struggle for rightful ownership of the sea. The tranquil blue sea had turned into a theater of confrontation. What was once a lifeline for fishermen had become a flashpoint for global conflict, the calm shattered by the threat of escalation. The fate of the Maria Clara would soon ripple far beyond these waters. The incident sparked debates in parliaments and living rooms alike, as people everywhere wondered what would come next. The crisis had only just begun. As night fell over the South China Sea, the world braced for what might follow, knowing that the events at Scarborough Shoal could shape the future of the region, and perhaps the world. Chaos gripped the Maria Clara. The once orderly deck was now a scene of confusion and fear, as the crew scrambled to make sense of the disaster that had struck them so suddenly. Captain Mateo Reyes, his arm broken and hastily bound in a makeshift sling, refused to let pain or panic take over. Gritting his teeth, he rallied his battered crew, barking out orders and offering words of encouragement, determined to keep everyone focused on survival. Injuries were everywhere: cuts, bruises, and even a possible concussion. Blood mixed with sweat as the men tended to each other, improvising bandages from torn shirts and whatever supplies they could find. But in the face of disaster, survival instincts kicked in. The crew, battered but not broken, found a new sense of resolve. They knew that giving up was not an option. Water poured relentlessly through the hull. The boat listed dangerously, threatening to capsize at any moment. Every second counted as the sea tried to claim their vessel. With buckets, pots, and even their bare hands, the crew fought desperately to keep afloat. Their radio, their only link to the outside world, was smashed, leaving them isolated and unable to call for help. They were utterly alone, adrift in hostile waters, and watched by the imposing silhouette of a Chinese ship in the distance. The threat was not just the sea, but the eyes that followed their every move. Hours dragged on. The sun beat down mercilessly, scorching their skin and draining their strength. Water supplies dwindled, forcing the men to ration every precious drop. With each passing moment, hope seemed to slip further away. Yet Captain Reyes refused to let despair take hold. He urged his men on, reminding them of their families waiting at home and their right to fish these waters. His words became a lifeline, keeping spirits from breaking. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they huddled together, sharing stories of home and whispered prayers. Fear and determination bound them together, forging a brotherhood in adversity. The psychological toll was immense. The constant presence of the Chinese ship was a shadow over their every thought, a reminder that danger was never far away. As night fell, new dangers emerged. The cold crept in, darkness swallowed the horizon, and uncertainty gnawed at their resolve. Every sound in the night felt like a new threat. The men fought not just for their boat, but for their very lives. Exhaustion set in, but they refused to surrender to the sea or to fear. Their ordeal was a stark reminder of the human cost of territorial disputes, of how ordinary people bear the brunt of conflicts far beyond their control. Each hour adrift deepened their desperation. The horizon offered no sign of rescue, only the endless uncertainty of the open sea. Would anyone come to help, or would their struggle be lost to the vastness of the ocean? News of the attack reached Manila, sending shockwaves through the city's bustling streets and echoing across the halls of government. The capital, already tense from months of maritime disputes, was suddenly thrust into crisis. The first word came not from officials, but through a desperate distress call from a nearby fishing boat, its crew's voices trembling with fear as they reported the assault. The Philippine Coast Guard scrambled a rescue operation, launching vessels into the night, but the waters were vast, and help was still hours away, leaving those at sea vulnerable and alone. President Santiago addressed the nation, her voice resolute as she condemned the Chinese aggression. She vowed to defend Filipino lives and sovereignty, promising that the country would not be intimidated. Manila quickly filed a diplomatic protest, summoning foreign officials and delivering a formal rebuke. Yet in the face of violence, words felt painfully inadequate. The attack was a blatant violation of international law, a direct challenge to the rules that govern peace at sea. It was also a test of the alliances that had long promised security in the region. In a historic move, the Philippines invoked the Mutual Defense Treaty with the United States, signaling that this was not just a local dispute, but a matter of global consequence. An urgent request for U.S. assistance was dispatched to Washington and the Indo-Pacific Command, setting off a flurry of high-level communications and strategic planning. Across the nation, Filipinos rallied behind their leaders. Crowds gathered in public squares, waving flags and demanding action. Their unity fueled by a shared sense of outrage and determination. Images of the battered Maria Clara, its hull scarred and broken, dominated the news. The sight of the damaged vessel became a symbol of national pain and resolve, fueling public outrage. The call for American help was more than a plea for military support. It was a strategic stand for the rule of law and the principles that bind nations together. Around the world, news outlets broadcast the unfolding crisis. The global community watched closely, waiting to see how the United States would respond to its allies' call. In government war rooms, leaders weighed their options. The stakes had never been higher, with the future of regional stability hanging in the balance. The Philippines had drawn a line, making it clear that aggression would not go unanswered. The nation stood firm, united in purpose. Now, the world turned its eyes to Washington. The next move belonged to the United States, and its decision would shape the course of history in the region. The U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet responded without hesitation. The USS John Finn, already on patrol, raced towards Scarborough Shoal. A P-8A Poseidon aircraft arrived first, relaying real-time intelligence. The American presence signaled, "You are being watched." The destroyer positioned itself between the Chinese ship and the Maria Clara, creating a shield. The U.S. hailed the Chinese vessel, announcing a humanitarian rescue, no permission asked. A rescue team reached the Maria Clara, treating the wounded and transferring the most serious cases to the destroyer. The rest received food, water, and help stabilizing their boat. The operation was swift, precise, and resolute. The fishermen were safe at last. The world had witnessed the power of Allied action. With the rescue complete, the mission shifted to deterrence. The USS John Finn was joined by the BRP Jose Rizal for joint patrols. American and Philippine flags flew side by side, a show of unity. Overhead, US and Philippine aircraft asserted control of the skies. The combined presence created a security bubble protecting local fishermen. Outnumbered, the Chinese ship withdrew, its aggression met with overwhelming resolve. The joint patrol restored confidence to Filipino fishermen. The Mutual Defense Treaty was now a living reality. The operation drew a clear line. Coercion would not go unanswered. All actions were lawful, professional, and measured. The Allies showcased responsible conduct at sea. The rules-based order was reinforced. The crisis had become a demonstration of Allied solidarity. The message, the seas would not be surrendered. The world reacted swiftly to the Scarborough Shoal incident. Japan, Australia, and the EU condemned China's aggression and praised the US-Philippine response. European powers echoed calls for restraint and respect for law. Beijing's denials found little support. Surveillance footage told the real story. The incident exposed China's gray zone tactics to global scrutiny. International support for the Philippines was about more than one vote. It was about upholding peaceful dispute resolution. A broad coalition stood up for a free and open Indo-Pacific. The world had drawn a line against intimidation. The stakes of aggression were now clear. The crisis accelerated security cooperation among the US, Philippines, and partners. The US-Philippine alliance became central to national security. Japan joined the security dialogue, launching trilateral naval exercises. Australia increased joint patrols. The UK and France sought to join future exercises. The coalition was inclusive, built on shared values and law. The threat was no longer abstract, it was real and urgent. The crisis unified partners and spurred action. Alliances now focused on managing present-day coercion, not just future threats. The region was forging a new era of collective security. The renewed alliance led to rapid defense upgrades for the Philippines. The US increased military financing, providing advanced radar, patrol craft, and drones. A landmark security pact with Japan brought new multi-role vessels and technical support. Infrastructure upgrades at Philippine bases improved Allied response capabilities. These steps built a credible, layered defense. The Philippines became a stronger security provider, backed by seamless Allied support. The message to Beijing: future aggression would come at a higher cost. The Allies were building real security, not just talking about it. The region's defenses had never been stronger. The Scarborough Shoal crisis reshaped Indo-Pacific security. Joint patrols by the US, Philippines, Japan, and Australia became routine, deterring further harassment. Allied unity was now a visible, daily reality. The international order was defended by a community of nations. Collective deterrence replaced might makes right. The trilateral alliance became the cornerstone of regional security. Regular exercises and integrated capabilities were the new normal. The goal: prevent conflict, not provoke it. The Maria Clara's ordeal proved the power of solidarity. Peace was now secured by the strength of many, not the intimidation of one. The future of the Indo-Pacific would be shaped by unity, vigilance, and shared commitment to peace.